Today's guest is someone whose career and curiosity are equally inspiring. Vivek Sunder, former COO of Swiggy and CEO of QMath, and now leading Kerala Ayurveda. He's a marketing mind who also happens to be deeply passionate about wildlife photography. Here's someone who has built brands, scaled businesses, and now finds balance and insight in the wilderness. Vivek has traveled with Toehold to Kabini and through his lens sees patterns that connect boardrooms and the bush, leadership and leisure, business and balance. In this episode, we'll talk about what the wild teaches us about management, the art of storytelling in marketing, and how creativity outside work can make us better leaders and more mindful humans. I'm Jayanth Sharma, and this is Explorer Chat, conversations at the crossroads of passion and purpose. Hi, Vivek. Thank you so much for joining us. We call this the Explorer Chat. Really grateful for your time.
Thank you for calling me. It is my pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So, I share a relationship with you which is beyond just a customer and a service provider. I have taken so much of advice from you. You have given me so much of your time to discuss a lot of things that I would need to, ponder over sometimes. So, I hope this conversation, even though I call it an Explorer Chat, it is a mixture of understanding Vivek Sundar as a professional, his background, his professional work, his expertise, and also see how we can bind your passion of travel and photography, and especially the jungles, nature, and all of that, and see what comes out of this. I'm sure there'll be a lot of learning for photo enthusiasts who have different walks of life, and probably will realize how they can blend both their passion and profession. So, looking forward to a wonderful chat.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So let's for the viewers' sake, understand a little bit about your past life, except for your not the professional one, but from an education, schooling, and all of that. Where were you born and brought up, and how did Bangalore happen to you?
So I've been really fortunate. I was born in Chennai, but because my father was a doctor in the army,
Right.
I had the incredible pleasure of actually living in literally north, east, west, south of the country.
Wonderful.
So I've done years in Guwahati,
Right.
which now I know is very close to Kaziranga.
Right.
In fact, I've been there as a child. I just don't remember much of it.
Wow.
Then he was posted in Patiala and Leh and Ladakh, and those are lovely places to be
Sure.
in. He was in Lansdowne in Uttarakhand, which is also a lovely place.
Wonderful.
Rajasthan, always a pretty place to be in.
Of course.
We were in Jodhpur and Jaipur. And so as a result of all of this travel and living in, I was actually in 14 schools across my 12 years.
Wow.
You just ended up loving, you either hated it or you loved it. And
Right.
of course, we were inspired to,
Sure.
or we were told to love what we have.
Right.
And
Right.
I would really enjoyed all the moves.
Right.
Have friends across the country. So when
Sure.
I go for my school alum meets,
Right.
I
Right.
can think about either going to Jodhpur or to Patiala or to Kolkata or any of these places. So
Right,
it's
right.
really fun to have had that kind of diverse growing experience.
Amazing. I think that explains the reason why your Hindi for a South Indian is above average, right? Otherwise, we have a lot of South Indianism in our Hindi, especially mine for sure. And I know a lot more people who can't even speak as well as I do, but yours is pretty good. That's because of your exposure to.
Yeah, I think there were two reasons for it. One, the Hindi, for a very long part of my primary school, my medium of instruction was Hindi.
Right,
Hindi wasn't a subject.
Right.
It was an actual medium of instruction. So even today, history, civics, geography, chemistry, physics, etc. I would still remember the terms in Hindi because that's how I was taught.
Oh,
So it was a little bit of a flip for me in grade 7, I think it was,
sure.
when I had to shift to English medium.
I see. I see.
Which made a big difference.
Right. Amazing. Wonderful. So that's a great exposure to different parts of India as a child growing up. And tell us about your post-school. How did I know that you're a Indian Institute of Management graduate. So tell us about that experience, please. What did you actually do in IIM?
IIM was great fun. It was the most amazing time of my life for two reasons. One, IIM Calcutta particularly had this very, let's call it adult way of teaching people. It did not mandate attendance, for example. So there were some classes where you would see 10 very interested students there and everybody else is bunking, but the professor was not sort of upset about it.
Right. Okay.
but obviously, it therefore gave us a good glimpse of how life is going to be, which is you've got to take charge and you've got to basically focus on what matters to you.
I see.
I also think the courses that were taught were not classic management only,
I see.
which I think is quite interesting. There was ethics.
I see.
There was management center. There was a management center for human values.
I see.
There was Indian economic and political history taught.
Oh, I see.
Right. So imagine people who've sort of ran away from history and civics and all those social science courses
finding it again.
Finding it again in the sort of pinnacle of education.
Sure.
So in some senses, I would give a lot of credit to not just the courses and the teachers that were there, but also the environment that was there that truly fostered self-learning.
Understood. And so you're saying, unlike a lot of other IIMs or maybe a lot of MBAs that we see, the MBA in general management, MBA in marketing, MBA in finance, MBA in HR, what was this?
So this, you could choose electives and basically specialize. So in my case, I did do a combination of marketing, finance, strategy, and economics. Those are the areas I sort of specialized in.
Okay.
But that was completely up to you. Nobody forced you to take one or the other. And many people took courses that they either liked or frankly felt had a better employment prospect.
Sure.
And I just, because I hadn't gone through all of those in my undergrad, I don't come from a business family. I ended up taking a lot of diverse courses.
Right.
And really enjoyed it. And I also think that because there was a lot of time and a lot of space given to do things, for me, the most sort of incredible experience was the leadership experience of being one of the elected positions that I held was head of placements.
Okay.
In an IIM, the head of placements is the most intense job you can get.
Understood.
So I spent probably more intense times dealing with placements than I did with the exams.
Understood. Because you had the whole cohorts there, responsibility of putting them to the right companies and all of that. That's great.
So we had 92 companies trying to place 300 students.
Wonderful.
Was and over a 5-day horizon.
Okay.
So it's like as intense as it gets.
Talking about placements, what was your first job? I mean, after IIM, what did you do?
So I got lucky in that when I was in my first year itself, I got through summer internship with this amazing company called Procter & Gamble.
Of course.
Which is a school over a school. So you literally, think about it, right? It's one of the top marketing companies in the world.
Okay.
Marketing textbooks are full of Procter & Gamble case studies.
Right.
And yet in the interview, I was asked not one marketing question.
Interesting.
Right.
What were you asked?
Asked questions about what drives you, what motivates you, what your strengths are, and in a smart way. It was intense because it was 5 interviews.
Sure.
But I think they were looking for a person who has the ability to learn. Because they said, "Look, we've invented marketing in many ways.
So we can teach you.
We can teach you that stuff.
Understood.
We just need people who have passion and the ability to learn."
Wonderful. So talking about marketing itself, right? In the sense, when did you join P&G? Was that in the 90s?
97 internship, 98 joining.
Right.
Yeah.
So 30 years now, 27, 28 years now. And I'm sure you've seen an evolution of marketing per se, what it used to be in the 90s versus in the 2000s, and then how the internet has probably influenced marketing in a different way, and how it's now more of digital, how things have changed. While the traditional ATL, BTL style stuff happens, there is a lot more which happens, which is a mixture of digital and also digital PR and also performance and all of that. So as a leader, I'm sure that apart from some COO responsibilities that you had in some companies, a lot of your leadership has been in the marketing space. Is that right?
Yeah, sales and marketing is how I grew up.
Okay, great. Yeah. So how have you kept yourself abreast with changing trends in marketing from marketing definition in the 90s to 2005 or 2015? It's completely different now. In 2025, it's completely a different world, right? So what have you done to grow as a leader who understands marketing and not just leadership? What was your process?
Yeah, one of the things which my mentor told me is that your formal education is just ended, but your real education learning has only just begun.
Sure.
So this is one of the things which they said, look, the way marketing used to be in the 60s is very different from the way marketing is in the 80s and so on and so forth. So every 10, 15, 20 years, there's going to be some
change,
shifts. Now, obviously, technology will make some shifts faster than others.
Right.
So the assumption that you're going to be, in fact, let me give you an analogy. If you graduated from flying school in 30 years ago,
right,
and you are now a pilot in one of the top, You're not going to say, oh, there's this new aircraft that's come about with fly-by-wire technology. I'm not going to learn it.
True.
So every 2 years, a pilot goes through retraining.
Of course, like a doctor and like
a doctor goes through retraining. A photographer goes through retraining.
True.
I mean, when you started, there was no mirrorless, right? You probably started with film. I don't know. I'm sure.
True.
So the fact that every profession needs to avoid obsolescence is there. However, the one thing that needs to be true is, rather than worrying about learning about
the mechanics of it,
if you learn the first principles, like take an example of, I don't know, the rule of thirds, for example, right? Or just composition.
True.
Whether you have mirrorless cameras or film, the principles remain the same, because the way eye perceives an image, and why it perceives it in a certain way, and that's not changing.
Absolutely.
So I think in marketing as well, if you understand what is called the foundations of marketing, and not about the way that's brought to life, you know, the mediums may change, ATL will BTL, etc., are obviously changing. If you understand the foundations of marketing, which is consumer behavior,
psychology,
how to convince consumers of different kinds, by segment, all of those things haven't really changed, even in the digital era. It's just that the digital tools allow you to do it faster, better, cheaper, more efficiently, more effectively in some cases, etc. But you have to incorporate that. I mean, I'll give you a programming analogy. Both of us come from a tech background. When I was studying, we were doing, you know, Fortran and C++
COBOL
and stuff
Lotus
like
123.
Okay, so that's not there anymore. But it doesn't matter. The fundamentals of logic is the same. Algorithms are the same. So that's the way I like to think about it.
Wonderful.
If you learn foundations of any field you're in, then, and make yourself, force yourself to learn every 3-4 years what new technologies are coming about, I think you're basically, in some senses, obsolescence proof.
Absolutely. Bringing this analogy back to our genre of photography, I remember learning about the golden ratio, learning about the rule of thirds, not even from photography. It was learned from my painting classes in school. And this was also what the Renaissance painters used to use. They speak about the golden ratio. They speak about the rule of third. In fact, Mona Lisa is a great example of golden ratio. So it's just the medium of expression has changed from painting to sculpture to painting to photography. Now, God knows what will be in the future. But the concept of how you should compose something, how a center of attraction, not the physical center, but the philosophical center, that has not changed at all. So
absolutely.
It's amazing how...
Absolutely. So, in fact, I'll tell you, you were talking about Mona Lisa, which is now maybe a few centuries old. If you go back even older than that, if you see some of the architecture in some of our temples, concepts like the rule of thirds, concepts like the horizon, like if you look at those famous Rameshwaram, you know, pillar, the horizon, it's amazing. You can take at it and say, wow, you know, even before any of these concepts came about, these guys, through hit and trial, brought it to life. So I just think that foundational principles are ageless, and of course new technologies can come about to bring it to life.
Fabulous. So I know that during the COVID, or maybe a year or two after that, you were the chief operating officer of Swiggy. We all know, and probably most of us use as well. How different was a COO's role there? Because it was a huge business. There was tons and tons of daily operations. There was digital marketing. There was a lot of logistics involved. There was a lot of I don't even know what all was involved. So from a cloud kitchen to digital marketing to all of that versus your previous roles, and now back to a CEO's role in a couple of companies like QMath and now Kerala Ayurveda. How different are these top level CXO roles from each other?
So there will be differences between a CEO role and a COO role, especially one where there is a CEO, COO. Some companies don't have a CEO and a COO together. But I think I would go back to the principle that just like the foundations of photography are unchanged, it doesn't matter whether you're doing with film or with mirrorless. Same way, I think the foundations of leading businesses are unchanged. Obviously, you need to be aware of what has changed. You know, the way the workforces behave today is different from the way the workforces used to behave in the past. But it is true 50 years ago that if you had a very motivated workforce, you'll have better output. It's equally true today. The question we have to ask is, how do you get workforces motivated today versus in the past? So I think leadership as therefore got to evolve, just like photography has to evolve, etc. But I would always go back to first principles and foundations, and maybe that's the STEM background that I have,
right,
that says understand things from first principles, and then you don't have to worry about
right,
anything beyond that, because everything else is just a shell,
right,
and then you're focusing on the shell, but the foundations are strong.
Sure. Soon I want to take you to our world of travel and photography, but I just want to wrap up a couple of your professional fields questions. So looks like you've been mostly with companies which are either funded or either already huge, like P&G and stuff like that. How different is marketing and also a COO's role in a bootstrapped company today? Do you see a big difference in the nature of how people operate at that level when there are a lot of funds versus somebody who is completely bootstrapped?
My observation is that if you look at, every amazingly funded company was once bootstrapped or once small.
True.
So if you look at successful companies that have crossed the valley of death, which happens to a lot of young startups, and gotten to that big stage, you will find that the way the founder or founders thought about marketing is not that different at zero money versus at lots of money.
Sure.
It's just that at lots of money, you know how to do a lot more thing, and you can basically do obviously a lot more things than you could. Right. But foundationally, it's the same, which is, do you really, really, really well understand your customer by segment? And do you understand your offering or your product on what is uniquely differentiated and better about your product?
Understood.
Now, if you don't understand that, if you have a lot of money, you'll just be wasting a lot of money.
Sure.
If you don't have a lot of money, you will not get any customers.
Of course.
But effectively, the outcome will be the same. So I think it's easy to say, oh, I wish I had the money. Because the reality is that if you didn't have the money, if you're not able to attract the people you as an individual can still reach out to,
you'll perhaps not do it with money as well.
Yeah. So I think this is one of the things that very, very few things are, if I had the money, I'd be a great marketer.
Sure.
And because I don't have the money, I'm a poor marketer. That just doesn't hold.
So what this tells us is money only increases the scale, and not the nature of how we do it to a large extent.
Speed, ability to make mistakes. It gives you a lot of cushion.
Sure.
There's no doubt that money is important.
Sure.
But I think the question is, what does money give you? It's not new ideas.
Right.
It's not, the ability to be a more, let's call it, bring your product, change your product. At the end of the day, if you are thinking about the consumer and the product in an obsessive manner that says, I'm always going to be customer first, then money is not going to make that happen.
Makes sense. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So how did a career-oriented young Vivek moving cities, I'm assuming P&G was not always in Bangalore. I know you were also in Nairobi for a few years. How did your inclination towards nature and photography happen? Was it nature first and photography later? Or photography happened and then you figured wildlife and nature is what you like to photograph?
So I actually had, outside of a point and shoot, which I think many middle class families have, I have had no background or grounding in photography till 2012.
Right. Okay.
So it's a little over a decade old now.
Right.
Nature I always loved. I remember that even when we used to go to, we were living in Thailand, and I would less like to go to the amazing malls of Thailand than to, let's say, the ruins of Ayutthaya or the forests up in the north. Thailand has, exactly. Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai has some fantastic wildlife. In fact, the northeast of the country is even wilder,
of course, and
amazing. And I remember our trip to Angkor Wat. I remember being enthralled by that mixture of culture and forests.
Right.
And so I remember liking
the prom.
Exactly. So I remember liking nature holidays, hills and forests and stuff, way more than I liked urban sort of strolls. I mean, once in a blue moon, I would go. So that I think is true. I think also growing up in these wonderful places, I remember I visited this neighborhood in Guwahati. So I lived in Guwahati from 1976 to 80.
Wow.
Okay.
The alpha time as well.
Yeah, well, lots of things. Very wild. And I went back to Guwahati when we opened Swiggy in 2020.
Oh, I see.
Right? Maybe 2019, 2020. When we inaugurated Swiggy in Guwahati.
Right.
And so I said, oh, you know what? I still have vague memories of my house. I want to go there. And the memories I have of my house from 1980 is that we used to be in a place called Narangi up in Guwahati.
I see.
And elephants used to come and there was an air raid alarm that was there because we were in an army cantonment.
I see.
But there was also an elephant alarm that used to come because if a herd of wild elephants were coming, you were just told go inside your house and watch them. And so in our house, we used to have banana trees and all of that, and they would come and just completely destroy them and go. So those are the memories I have of, and I remember being enthralled by these magnificent beasts. Imagine seeing them just outside your window.
True.
So I think that the love for wildlife definitely was
started
there.
from there.
Photography is a bit of a funny one.
Okay.
So my wife gifted me a DSLR.
I see.
Okay. It was my birthday and she gifted me a DSLR, and it was a decent mid-level DSLR. And because I was a point and shoot guy, I was using it on auto mode for about 8 months.
Right.
Okay, and I was getting good photographs. Auto is not bad.
Sure.
And then I had a very good friend of mine who I consider a mentor and a very good photographer.
I see.
He visited me and he was looking at me taking pictures because he was visiting me at home.
Right.
So he laughed and he said, using a DSLR and using it on auto is a bit like buying a Ferrari and saying, let me drive it in first gear.
Right.
You're really not going to see the benefits of this amazing piece of equipment.
True.
So he gave me some tips. But of course, then he said, go just learn formally.
Understood.
So that was my first interaction with Toehold.
Oh,
I
really?
actually learned the art and science of photography from Toehold.
Wonderful.
In a lovely room right next to the Andheri railway station.
In Mumbai. Yeah.
In Mumbai.
Right.
So for 2 days.
I remember this now.
Yes. And I was enthralled. I was like, man, this is so cool. They've taught me art and science both in one day, and post-processing was also taught a little bit.
Right.
And from that day, I mean, because I was in Mumbai, I did a lot of street photography, Dhobi-Ghat, lots of cool stuff, just walking, portraits, humans, etc. But we are in Mumbai, so we're only literally a flight away from Tadoba and Kanha and Pench and all of that. Of
course.
So we did do a little bit of that, but then it really exploded when I got the opportunity to work in Nairobi. From Mumbai, we went to Nairobi.
I see.
And we were 45 minutes by flight away from landing in the Mara.
Right.
Wilson Airport to Masai Mara was 45.
Absolutely.
Was just a short flight.
How long did you spend in Nairobi?
2.5 years.
Okay.
And we must have done the Mara and Amboseli and all of that, I don't know, 20 times.
I'm sure.
Insane.
Right.
And of course, there you realize that both your technique as well as your equipment is not fit for purpose.
Okay.
So I actually, picked up a little more of equipment to be able to do some of those photography that I wanted to. I picked up a large 600 mm.
Okay.
Which then, in some senses it's good because the days when I'm not doing photography, I'm in the gym. And the days I'm in the gym, I'm carrying a 5 kg lens.
Understood.
So I have no problems with
this was I know that you're a Canon user. This was the 500 f4 IS.
600 f4.
600 f4 IS, not even the IS2.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So what is it that you have observed that as a leader, you can see relationships between the wilderness and the boardroom, or let's say the leadership room? Are there some things that you can see are common?
First of all, the uncertainty.
Okay.
Right? I mean, if we are a responsible wildlife photographer, which thankfully a lot of Indians are these days,
right?
You cannot control what the animal does, what the bird does, and you shouldn't try to control it. You can try to predict it, but the best predictions go haywire.
Right.
So I think it forces you to stop being a control freak, to say in life and in business, you can't control everything. So focus on the controllables, right? What's in your hand is the camera.
Right.
You can control that.
Sure.
You can control how you behave in the wild and how long you're waiting for an animal or a bird. And if you focus on what you control and not get stressed about what you can't control, I do think that there is a parallel to the business. You can't control what changes happen in the regulatory landscape. You can't control what changes happen with competition.
Right.
But what you can control is how you deal with the consumer. Either you sort of predict it, by carefully observing what's happening, or you react to it. Tweaking. So I do think that being obsessed about what you control and doing it well, trying it all the time, and this, to get one good shot, you have to take 300-400 good, shots, if not more.
Right.
So you don't get stressed out that, oh my God, I failed 299 times and so on and so forth.
Right,
Nobody I know of gets stressed in the wildlife world. But in business, we often tend to start, worrying about failures. I do think startups have a much better culture in that they tolerate failure.
Sure.
But that is a common thing.
Right.
Almost even a expert photographer like you, I'm sure, have, I don't know, 20-30% keepers.
Of course. Absolutely. In fact, I also realized while you were talking that we have another common topic that we keep talking about, which is cricket sometimes.
Right.
And Dhoni famously says, control the controllables.
That's right.
So that is something interesting that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So also something I want you to understand, because I deal with a lot more photo enthusiasts. There is a lot of stress in photographers as well, even though they do it as a hobby.
Right.
Sometimes the boardroom stress comes to the safari.
Right.
And when there is a disappointment in a safari, what happens to them in the boardroom or in the high leadership role can be seen on the safari as well.
Oh, wow.
The way they react to a disappointing loss of sighting, or let's say a jeep in front blocked their view of Riddhi in Ranthambhore.
Right.
How individuals react is something very interesting. I keep observing as a person who meets a lot of different age groups, a lot of different professionals.
Right.
I definitely think while everybody starts off travel and photography as a stress buster, somewhere it's very difficult to remove the nature of a person.
Right.
The stress travels with them even to the jungle.
Yes.
And it translates to stress to the drivers, guides, people like us who are hosting them.
Right.
As well. I wish it was other way, but definitely a lot of stress in wildlife as well.
Oh, wow. One of the things which, I've done a couple of safaris with you. I don't recall either you being stressed or at least the group I travel with being stressed.
Sure.
But I think that your CXOs and all your famous guests, maybe CXOs where they are, but when they're with you in the forest, you're the boss.
Right.
So I think you can easily change their behavior by actually being a little more sort of role modeling and saying it's okay, we didn't see it, this is what we learned from it, and this is what we learned about the animal behavior as to why it didn't come.
Right.
A good example of that is last week I was in Ranthambhore, and many times we didn't get the sightings of Raz cubs because the jeeps hadn't.
Or did you say Bandhavgarh?
Sorry, in Bandhavgarh. And the jeeps hadn't created enough of a space.
Right.
So as a result of which, the cubs wouldn't cross the road and she wouldn't cross the road.
Understood.
This time, actually, finally what happened was we kept telling them, give the space. This is the mother with cubs. So finally there was a space that was created.
And she
crossed first. But then there wasn't enough space because everybody got excited.
Right.
And so she actually came and did a mock charge.
Wow.
To tell the jeeps to back off.
Wonderful.
From a distance. And then when they did back off, we had the most lovely, wonderful sightings of the 3 cubs.
Wow.
So I think it happened because the guides did, in some senses, be very direct and firm with the excited guests to say, no, we can't do this, let's go back.
Sure.
So I do think that it's possible to change them,
right.
because I do believe that there is nature and then there is nurture.
Of course.
So I look forward to get to teachers like you in the forest to train us to be patient, because that's the only success. I'm sure you've had poor sighting safaris.
Absolutely. Quite a lot more than good sightings, but the good sightings make up for all the poor gives you the enthusiasm for a few more poor safaris.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of people are really good nature lovers. They pick up the camera. But I have seen and noticed that a lot of people who pick up the camera and start shooting fashion, start shooting landscape, suddenly they came to a jungle, they got a tiger's photo, and then the reception they got for the tiger's photo on Instagram was so rewarding that they figured, okay, now I'll do wildlife photography.
Right.
Now that cohort, till the time they understand nature as a whole, they will be a little unrealistic in their expectations and they will go through a lot more disappointments.
Yeah.
A true nature lover will treat every sighting as a blessing.
Yes.
हमारे भाग्य में था,
बिल्कुल.
नहीं था तो नहीं था. So that attitude is there amongst a lot of people.
Yeah.
But some people may not realize that अरे हमने 1 lakh rupees दिया है full day safari का, 4 tiger भी नहीं दिखा तो क्या फायदा? That is the thought process.
Yeah, but I think it's just you have to switch on a different attitude.
Right.
Hopefully that attitude transcends even when you leave the forest. So
right.
Let me give you an example. It was our last safari and we had missed seeing in Bandhavgarh, and we had just missed seeing, like by 2 minutes and 5 minutes, this amazing big male called Bajrang.
Right, of course.
उसके जोन में थे हम लोग,
ताला में, चक्रधारा में.
हाँ, तो ठीक है, मिस हो गया. कोई alarm call नहीं. It's like in the afternoon. It's still, there is no alarm call. None of the other guides have seen anything.
Right.
We're like, looks like we are not going to see anything.
Right.
So I remember telling the guides, यहाँ पे और क्या है अच्छा देखने को? तो he said, sir, ऊपर एक बहुत प्राचीन मंदिर है.
हाँ, okay.
ठीक है.
ताला में, you went to the Sheshaya.
हाँ.
Wonderful.
तो आप जाएंगे था. All of us said, हाँ, क्यों नहीं? Right. And so he took us up.
Right.
And we spent a lovely time. It's obviously a very, very peaceful spot. Right on top of the hill.
Of course.
But here's the cool part. We spent maybe 5-10 minutes there, got to see a little bit of our amazing history. Saw the hidden Brahma. There is Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh there.
Of course.
Right? And then when we were on our way down, because you're on a hill and you see a valley, we just saw, all of us stopped and we saw a Malabar hornbill. A pair of Malabar hornbill flying across the valley as they do.
Beautiful.
And we're like, boss, most people come here and see the tigers. But how many times are you going to see up in sort of middle India, Malabar hornbills? So the jeep screamed to a halt. And we just took the most amazing pictures across the valley. The light was brilliant because it was behind us, falling on the birds. And we took some amazing pictures of the Malabar hornbill. Some of us in excitement forgot to change the parameters because obviously a Malabar hornbill that's far away.
Expected.
Yeah. But I got some really good shots. So I would actually say my best shot this time in Bandhavgarh was not of the tigers. I got some good shots.
Okay.
But I got Malabar hornbills brilliantly.
Right.
And something that you have taught before, which is the backlit photography.
Oh, lovely.
You've taught, I think, backlit with polar bear once.
Okay.
And something else once.
Okay. Thank you for
tigers
remembering.
Yeah. And I said, wow, in the afternoon there was lovely winter sun.
Right.
And we got this Hanuman Langur sitting in a meditative pose.
Okay.
With the sun behind him.
I see.
And we got an amazing shot of Hanuman Langurs.
Wonderful.
And I remember when I was taking the picture, focus. What did Jayanth say in that video?
Oh, wow.
And then there's no internet, so I couldn't go and immediately check it out.
Sure.
And so we took some pictures, obviously, dramatic change in exposure compensation, all those things we did.
Wonderful.
So my point is, that became the most amazing safari of ours, where we got this flying hornbills as well as the backlit.
Understood.
0 tigers in that shot, in that entire safari.
Wow.
But 4 amazing hours.
Was this your first time in Bandhavgarh, or you've been before?
No, this is my first time in Bandhavgarh.
Okay.
We have a funky group of friends who meet maybe 2-3 times a year to do different forests.
Right.
Now, some of us are living in Bangalore, some in Bombay, some in Delhi.
Is this the same group which went to Kabini with Trikansh?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. And so this time we decided, let's make it equally painful for each to reach.
I see.
Right. And there's only one flight to Jabalpur. And then from there it's 4 hours.
Right.
So if you look at it from efficiency terms, it's the hardest forest to get to for those of us here.
Of course.
Versus Kabini, where...
Fortunately, you have a direct flight from Bangalore to Jabalpur now.
And from Delhi and from Bombay
as well.
But it still means you spend the whole day.
Of course.
Right. Whereas in all other forests,
lunchtime you're in the
you can see the second safari.
Of course.
Right. So we went, this was an amazing period. Bandhavgarh is obviously an amazing thing. You're familiar with the term komorebi?
Komorebi, no.
Yeah.
What
so
is
komorebi is a Japanese term, which literally means the light streaming through trees in a forest.
Trikansh's favorite shot.
Yes. Trikansh has taken some lovely ones up in the hills.
He's behind the camera today. Anyway, okay.
So we got some amazing shots because the sal trees, that winter sun, we got some amazing shots, and that also we were practicing. And,
wonderful. One more common denominator between the two of us is our passion for wildlife and nature, but also our interest and maybe, I don't know, I can call it passion for me, but inquisitiveness to history and culture. Today, I have scheduled a post. Hopefully, while we are recording this, it should be live on Instagram. Yeah. I find Ranthambhore and Bandhavgarh to be 2 national parks which give us a great combination of natural history and also takes us back to historical times.
Absolutely.
In Ranthambhore, it was the medieval era, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th century AD, the Khiljis and all of that. Bandhavgarh is, I'm sure you know, Bandhavgarh is having a relationship with Ramayana.
Correct.
And also the Dashavatara has been sculpted in the whole thing. Yeah. So the place where you went, Sheshaya, is the foothills of the fort.
Right.
And during the times when I used to go alone before Toehold as an enthusiast, we could actually walk from Sheshaya all the way up to the fort. It's,
I think they allow it now 2 days a year.
that is on that
Ekadashi day, I think. Or
Kabir ka kuch hai, Kabir Jayanti or something. And one more day, the whole village can walk through. But this, after the morning safari, we could buy a fort permit, go and park the car near Sheshaya and walk up to the fort. And sitting on the edge of the fort and looking at the whole park from there was a real blessing. And Malabar Hornbills are resident there. They live on the fort. There is a Kalyani there. There is a temple there. And of course, there were some tigers which also lived in the fort area. But the best part of that fort was the vulture point, from where you see vultures at eye level, gliding. And
that's one thing I've noticed. We were in Panna and we saw vultures. I'm seeing, despite the mess with diclofenac, I'm seeing, at least as a layperson, vultures coming back. I just hope they recover to reasonable numbers.
Especially the Indian vulture, which was one of the common. I also saw a lot of. I was in Panna on the same dates you were in Bandhavgarh, as we exchange notes. I also saw a lot of red-headed vultures, though everybody calls it king, but the red-headed vultures coming back in numbers, I also felt the same. So, talking about Panna, Bandhavgarh, what other national parks are your favorite and you've been to, or you've been there once but you loved it?
So, I love Kabini.
I know. Okay.
I mean, I'm lucky I'm in Bangalore. So, Kabini is now with the new highway even closer.
Sure.
But I think I love it for multiple reasons.
Okay.
One is the fact that the boat safari just gives you a very different perspective. Because you suddenly now are facing the forest from the water. And there is no way, I mean, you'll get, if you're doing forest safaris, let's be honest, you're going to get an elephant's bum most of the time. Or elephant hidden by this thing. Thicket. Whereas from the boat, I have got some amazing shots. I mean, I've got this elephant, who's sadly no more, called Bogeshwara.
Right.
His tusks are just amazing. And I took him alone grazing on when the grass was just fresh from the boat.
I see.
You just can't get those kind of pictures.
Of course.
So I like the fact that you can get to practice a lot of bird photography, especially the
ospreys
and so on and so forth. But of course, it's got everything, right? It's got the tigers and it's got leopards. Amazing birds. It's got fantastic leopards. This is one of the things, despite the point around, resource partitioning and, one being arboreal, the other being terrestrial. In most of the forests now I see, at least in middle central India and all of that. While you get tiger sightings galore, leopard sightings are extremely rare.
True.
Whereas in Kabini, for some reason, you still get fairly decent leopard sightings. I know Rajaji has good leopard sightings. But,
no tigers.
But yeah. So I think Kabini has elephants, it's got tigers, it's got, birds of prey, it's got the
wild
safari,
dogs.
So pretty much everything. Oh, by the way, wild dogs, very hard to get. We once had a wild dog chase. I think it was Trikansh with us in that wild dog chase safari thing.
Okay.
Where for about 45 minutes we were just behind a pack of wild dogs.
I remember when we were there in Kabini together, I vividly remember a mother and a calf suckling on the left of the road. I used that picture on the Kabini site, so I remember you whenever I use that image. Also, one more thing about Kabini and Ranthambhore and Bandhavgarh is also Kabini's history. Even though it was not medieval or let's say prehistory and all of that, ancient history, Kabini's history is probably modern history, like, Maharaja of Mysore, the British rule, the hunting and all of that. So all these places have a legacy and the famous Khedda operations in Kabini and all of that. It's amazing to know. So tell me, you have been to Tadoba at least a couple of times, or maybe once. Eight times. Wow. That's more than me actually. I have not been going to Tadoba for a while and now I've restarted because after they changed a few things, it's gorgeous right now. So what do you like about Tadoba?
I think I like... First of all, I like the access. The reason I've gone there so often is because you just, you've got amazingly convenient flights from Bangalore to Nagpur. And so I like the access. In fact, I don't know if you're aware, but the Sunday night flight, last night flight back from Nagpur to Bangalore is so full of photographers.
Oh, is it? The 7 o'clock flight?
The 7 o'clock flight. That you often have the pilots and the air hostesses basically saying sighting kaisa hua, acha hua kya?
Acha.
Right?
Thankfully not saying baggage ka jagah nahi hai.
And often enough you will be having people exchanging across the aisle.
I see.
Ki iska sighting hua kya, uska sighting hua kya. So chota matka mila ya nahi and all of that. So I do think that it has truly become one of those I mean, in India, it is the closest to the Mara, Wilson to Mara flights that you
Sure.
can think of.
Sure.
So I think it's great access from Bombay, from Delhi, as well as from Bangalore. I think the other thing which I like about it is that some of the guides that I have been lucky to be with are truly knowledgeable.
Right.
And that makes a tremendous difference.
Right.
Guides who are not going to be bullied by and I mean it in this way, some of the guides we go with don't get bullied by the tourists,
right,
to say
right.
idhar jao, udhar jao, yahan se nikalte hain. They're in charge,
right,
and
right.
it makes a big difference.
Sure.
I know there are a couple of them in every park.
Of course,
we were lucky with very good guides even this time in Bandhavgarh.
I see.
But I think that for us, access, lovely, obviously landscape, tigers, all of that, plus great guides that we have access to,
right,
I think makes a difference.
Of course, of course. So talking about the jungle itself, do you think leaders, or let's say people in prominent positions in companies, where they not only have to take the right decisions, but they're also in charge of hundreds of people who also are employed, and they are leaders, they show them the direction and all of that. Do you think a hobby like, let's say, wildlife, travel, or let's say photography, is something which adds on to somebody's mental well-being? Do you think people should have hobbies?
Absolutely. I was in a business school a year ago. I was actually in a university just 2 days ago, and we talked about the power of hobbies. All of us are familiar with the famous story of you can connect the dots looking backward, not forward. And we are familiar with the whole calligraphy and Apple and Steve Jobs.
Right.
I mean, that wasn't a hobby, but he did do it like a hobby.
Right, right.
I think that if we choose to have hobbies, they can help in what I call the direct and the indirect ways. So the direct ways are like, if you're doing a hobby that actually has a connection to your sort of,
right,
work, then that's obvious.
Right.
In my case, I guess the direct connection would be that since the last 10-15 years of being seriously involved in both the taking of photos as well as the post-processing of it, I tend to look at a piece of advertising,
I see,
with a way more critical eye than I used to.
Wonderful,
right?
Wonderful. You have an opinion which...
I have an opinion. I comment on it. It's coming from a point of having experimented. And
what does the creative director feel?
Doesn't like it. Doesn't like it one bit.
I guess.
Right. So, in fact, they've started basically including me in the pre-part to say, boss, let's get the input.
Isko pehle satisfy karo.
Exactly. So that's, for example, a direct one. But let me give you a couple of interesting indirect ones. You get a lot of thinking time in the forest.
Right.
I'm very happy that mobiles still don't work.
Right.
For the most part in forests.
Right, right.
So you have zero distraction. You have the ability to think. The hyper-oxygenation of the forests,
right,
and the forced quiet that you have,
right,
actually give serious benefits,
sure,
on multiple things.
Right.
Let me give you an example. The last 5 days, 4 days when we were in Bandhavgarh, as it so happened on my way back on the plane, I was just looking at the phone data for the last 5 days.
I see.
Based on what my wearable had recorded.
I see.
I mean, when I was there, I wasn't paying attention.
I see.
But stress levels in those 5 days were 35% lower than baseline.
Interesting.
Okay, because it measures stress.
Perfect timing for my next question.
SPO2. SPO2.
Okay.
Dramatically better in those. It
Of
took
course.
a couple of days for it to kick in.
Okay.
But way better.
I see.
Right? Now, this is despite the fact that because of the fact that you're in a lovely location and you're doing these early morning safaris,
you're
sleeping very less.
I guess
so. In a normal world, if I was doing sort of 5 hours of sleep or 5.5 hours of sleep,
you would be deprived.
You would be deprived. Stress would show up.
Right.
O2 levels will be poor.
Right.
But O2 levels are off the charts.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So I do think the ability to think clearly, the ability to be de-stressed, the ability to think about different things is dramatically better. So in many cases, you can either go and hole yourself up in an ashram, or you can go to the forest.
Absolutely.
I would definitely prefer the forest.
Absolutely.
I also think the principles of meditation are actually executable in a forest, which is
interesting.
Mindfulness.
Okay.
Being in the present.
Okay.
Being able to cut out stray thoughts. Focus on your breathing.
Oh, interesting.
All of those things that people teach students of meditation are actually going to be true in a forest.
I see.
Right. Sometimes in a retreat, they will say, focus on the flame. Well, here you're focusing on a bird for like 30 minutes.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
I mean, you're not Arjun. Thankfully,
Right.
you're not. But you're still focusing on a bird and seeing its behavior.
Right.
Like there was a particular, I think it was a brown fish owl or something. He was just sitting there forever. And we were focusing on it because one shot, I remember this in Tadoba once I was trying to, it was so still.
Oh, I see.
That and it was on the ground. And we were just waiting for alarm calls.
Right.
So I decided to try to get my image in the eyes of the owl.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
And I kid you not, I got it.
Wow.
I mean, after a long effort. But it was still...
It was so close, is it?
It was about 150 feet away, but I had a 600 mm.
Oh, I see.
And I could sense that because the owl's eyes are anyway amazing on light.
Sure.
If I focus really well, and by the way, I didn't have AI helping me. AI wasn't helping me to reach the owl's eyes. I had to focus.
Right.
But it was amazing because in PP, I can easily zoom in and see.
Wow.
So there's an image of an owl
and a car.
And me with my lens and a jeep are Wonderful. In the image, in the eye of the owl.
Beautiful. That's amazing. So while you mentioned a couple of things, one of the words that I caught was stress, right?
Yeah.
So it looks like the jungle trips are definitely a stress buster for you. I remember a few months ago, you were helping me recruit somebody and we were talking to somebody and we were realizing that even though it was a management role or an office role, the amount of time the person was traveling was, in our perspective, a little too much. So tell us about your way of looking at a holiday. How many times in a year you prefer to take a holiday, but you may not be able to do it because of work responsibilities and all of that. Are you noticing that? I keep asking this to everybody because I come from a perspective of observing clients who overdo their hobby to an extent where the very reason why they got into it is to be stress-free, but that creates another stress.
Yeah.
So tell us about your perspective on how often should a holiday be, how long should it be for you? I mean, of course, to each his own,
Correct.
But your perspective.
So think about, when you and I started working, which I think was just a few years apart, office was office,
right,
and home was home. Okay, it was very difficult for you to do any work when you were at home because all the desktops were in the office. There was no mobile phone.
True.
So if you had a work, like in your case, I think you were in the tech sector. How can you do work when you're at home? I mean, you can think about it, but you're not going to be able to actually do work.
True.
If you're in manufacturing, surely you're not going to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Now, with devices coming about and more of the knowledge work happening, the first thing that happened was office started intruding into homes because you could still be in touch with emails, phone calls,
and WhatsApp,
Zoom calls, and WhatsApps, and all of that at home.
Right.
Now, if office has intruded into home, in some senses, you could argue that home or leisure should intrude into office, within quotes. Which is why I have a relatively sort of bindas view of this. I think that what has happened is from rigid boundaries, it has now become fluid boundaries.
Okay.
And therefore, as long as you are clear on the tasks to be done and you and your co-workers and your manager are clear on what needs to be done and you get it done, how does it matter whether you did half of it at home, half of it in the office?
True.
Doesn't really matter.
True.
And therefore, if you ended up taking, if for example, if a working mother decides to take an online PTA meeting, 9 o'clock from the office, isn't that better than she's saying, I want half a day's leave to go and do the same PTA meeting in the school?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is better.
Absolutely.
Now, in theory, she's doing home-related work from the office.
Right.
But I would prefer that
rather
than she wasting 2 hours and taking half a day off and so on and so forth. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing which I would say is if you say that, look, what gives you, and you are curious, so am I.
Right.
I used to have this thing. When I joined the company, the first 2 years in FMCG, you're out in the field. And in the first year, I was in sort of rural and semi-rural Tamil Nadu.
Right.
In the so-called Western Belt. And we were supposed to go out and visit stores and wholesale markets and retail stores and meet customers and meet distributors, etc. in the field.
Right.
And while my base was Coimbatore, I was doing everything from Dharmapuri down to Pollachi, everything in between.
I see.
So I would have done in that first 2 years about 400 towns. Now, one of my managers told me, look, it's going to, if you're alone, there's no mobile phones and nothing. It can be incredibly boring because you're just alone going from town to town, not in a fancy car, but in, buses, local buses. So if you don't have curiosity and say, otherwise it'll just be a blur, town after town after town, you're just doing the same. It can be very boring.
Right.
So one of the things I used to do is every town, I would actually, I'm sure every town has history. Every town has something to be, something that is special.
Sure.
So I would tell the local salesperson who I would meet, इस town में जो भी special है, उसका experience करूँगा after or before I've done my work related trips.
Right.
So it could be if there was a lovely restaurant that made amazing idlis, early morning, they're famous for their idlis. I would say, let's start the day with a trip to that idli shop, and then we can continue with the day. Or if there was a lovely temple somewhere, we would say, market visit finish करने के बाद temple चलते हैं.
बिल्कुल.
Right. So which means, and I would write about it because back in those days you had to write a town report.
Right.
So I would often write about that thing. If they had amazing murukus, I would basically say, let's experience the food there.
Of course.
So, or if they had some lovely, handicrafts, I would go and buy some. So the reality is now when I'm out, doing a tourism of a sari shop in Kanchipuram. Am I at work? Am I in tourism? What am I doing? The reality is I'm doing both.
Right.
I came to work, I finished my work, and now seeing this amazing thing. So this has been the digital era. In today's era, it's very, very easy to do that.
Right.
So I would always say that if you go to a place and you get to see more than just the office or more than just a hotel room, you will remember that place. You will have better knowledge of that place.
True.
What you went there for, you will be better at. And you'll also not have a sort of not think about that job as a chore, but as something to look forward to.
Sure.
And so I always do that. This time we went to Bandhavgarh. It's painful to get to Bandhavgarh, but the consequences, we said, okay, why do we have to rush straight to the lodge?
Yeah, relax in the evening.
No, why don't we spend time in Bandhavgarh town?
Okay.
So we went to the Chausat Yogini temple. We went to that amazing marble waterfalls, which is called Dhuandar.
I see. I haven't been there.
Yeah. So because you can't do any safaris on the day you fly. Right. So it's wiped out. Wonderful. So you might as well spend extra 2 hours in town and see these amazing palaces and temples and forts and places. And we went and had some amazing food there.
Wonderful.
in Jabalpur town.
Okay.
And then headed off
to Bandhavgarh.
So we reached late.
Okay.
But whether you reach at 7 p.m. or at 9
p.m. doesn't matter. Yeah. Right. Wonderful. All right. That's been a wonderful conversation so far. I wanted to ask you something interesting, right? So as a leader in marketing positions, you need to talk to a lot of performance marketing specialists, right? There is a lot of analytics, a lot of dashboards, a lot of, reading between numbers and understanding a lot of things related to, data, which also draws a lot of pictures for you. Now, you are an individual with a lot of creativity and a creative side to you. At the same time, there seems to be a very hardcore analytical side to you as well. So tell us about how you balance the two, how you draw relationships between these two, because once you have to, judge a creative process of, let's say, a photographer's work for an ad, for example, at the same time, you have to look at performance marketing and stuff like that. I tell you why I'm asking this question. When I deal with a lot of marketing professionals, they're either this or that. Very few individuals can be creative yet analytical, in my opinion. Maybe I've met people like that, but how do you balance the two?
So, since both of us have taken high school maths for sure, if you think about...
Don't remind me of that.
If you think about creativity and analytical rigor or analytical ability as on the same x-axis, then you will say one is minus and one is plus. It's the same, it's polar opposites.
Right.
I don't tend to think of it that way.
Okay.
I tend to think of it as one is on the x-axis, one is on the y-axis.
Okay.
So you can be highly creative and highly analytical, or less of one, less of both, etc. There are four
quadrants.
It's a 2 by 2.
Right.
And the reason is because as most people would tell you, the average human still uses a very small fraction of what his or her brain is capable of.
Of course.
So I think it's a simple case of being typecasted as, so-and-so is very good at maths, therefore he must be very poor at creativity, art or creativity. That's not really true.
Maybe.
Sure, some people may be good at one and not good at the other. And that's perfectly fine.
Right.
But there are people who are good at both. And, and sadly there are people who don't explore the limits of their own brain and not great at both. So I think that if you tell yourself that creativity is also I mean, if creativity could not be taught, why would you have an art school? Why would you have a photography school? Why would you have a film school?
Right.
All creative professions have schools. So if it couldn't be taught, why would you have a school?
Of course.
Right. And obviously the same is true for the analytical stuff. So the first thing which I tell people is my default position is your brain is capable of both. Exercise that muscle.
Sure.
And therefore you will be better at it than you were before you started.
Right.
So that's the first starting position.
Right.
Now the second thing which I would say is that the way I tend to look at it is there is a role for both in marketing. Since you gave the example of marketing.
Sure.
Often if you want to know what's happening in the business, what's happening, why is the numbers the way they are, why are the results not what they are,
right?
It's a good place to start with quantitative data. Okay. And to say, what the facts are. For example, so let me give you an example of that from a sort of Swiggy example. In the early days, Swiggy was incredibly successful with young urban professionals. More male than female.
I see.
Because if you think about it, they were all living mostly outside their hometowns.
When you say successful, you mean the customer base?
Yeah, the customer base was mostly male young professionals. Right. 60-70% was male.
Sure.
And less so was females. Because if you think about it, young urban professionals working in tech firms, IT firms, or other firms, working outside their hometowns, obviously, didn't want to have a commute and then have another commute to go to a restaurant. So press a button, food comes home. Life is easy. You also didn't know how to cook very well.
True.
And so on and so forth. You were also young, so you had a good appetite. So you wanted to eat out. So naturally it tended to be with them.
Right.
But as the company expanded, it needed to go. So the facts, now here getting into numerical facts,
of course,
is that we had about 70 to 80% meaningful penetration amongst this cohort. And we had a less than 10% penetration amongst, let's say, the homemaker, slightly older woman cohort.
Oh, I see.
Okay. In fact, in certain cities, it was less than 1%.
I see.
Now, that's the facts. Now, obviously, knowing the degree of this problem is very important.
Right.
Because then you are able to understand the size of the opportunity.
Okay.
That if we were to get this 1% penetration amongst this homemaker, older mother cohort,
right,
and get it to 10%, then that's a 10x increase in that business.
Of course.
But now comes the question of why.
Right.
Now, there's a little bit of the why that you can answer with analytics.
Right.
But at some stage, the why stops giving you answers.
Of course.
Why is that? Because if they haven't downloaded the app,
right,
what will data tell you?
Right.
They are not giving you any data.
Of course.
They have not downloaded it.
Sure.
So you have to start getting into what is called inciting.
Okay.
And inciting is a use of both the left and the right brain.
Okay.
Because often customers won't tell you precisely why they are using or not using the product.
True.
So you have to be able to have the ability to eke out why they are not using the product.
Right.
Through a process of what we call qualitative data. And qualitative data gathering is as much left brain as it is right brain.
Interesting.
But now comes the difficult part. Even after you've understood, what's causing it, the process of solving it is almost entirely creative process. Because then you have to give that brief to an advertising agency.
Sure.
And say, bring this insight to life because I want to appeal to that cohort of consumers to try Swiggy.
Absolutely.
So in this example, and you would have seen the ads in the 2020 era, which is when we went after the homemaker, older mother cohort. The insight was very simple.
Okay.
It's not like they didn't have the money, because even places which had money and women who were comfortable with digital transactions were not using Swiggy.
Okay.
The reality was that they considered part of their pride, and all of us, I'm sure, are
in cooking.
Yeah, a part of their pride was that I provide wholesome, tasty food to my children, and it's part of my pride that I give them good food.
I see.
Right.
I see.
And if they are growing well and they are growing, nicely, and they are well fed and well nourished, and they are having, they're happy with the food. They come back and they love their mother's food. It's part of the pride. It's part of the pride of being a mother is I give good food.
Right.
I'm sure a mother loves it. Today you don't live, if you go back to your mother, or if you have anybody that goes back to the mother and mother says, "Oh, I've made your favorite food."
Right.
That's all part of the pride of being
a
homemaker.
Right. Right.
Whether it is making something she has entirely made, or she's made partially, or she's had the person at home make, doesn't matter. Now, if you basically say, replace her with Swiggy, in some senses it's attacking.
Yeah. I understand
that
the psychology.
thing of why, why should I be, I'm being, in some senses she won't tell you that.
Of course.
But she would feel that she's not being a good mom.
Of course. Makes sense.
Even though she won't tell you that.
Right.
If she replaces entirely. So we said, hammering the fact that we have so many, you can get a whole meal from Swiggy is not going to make a dent on her replacing it. Because in one cases she will think restaurant food is expensive, which is true.
Right.
Versus home food.
Right.
Second, she will think it's unhealthy, which is also in some senses true. Ghar ka khana versus bahar ka khana.
Bilkul.
And third is, that means she's also not being,
emotionally also she may have that problem. Yeah, correct. I understand.
And I mean, let's be honest. You and I are in this wonderful city where there is lovely dosas.
Right.
If we could get dosa fresh off the pan, a minute after it was taken off the pan, that is always going to be 10 times better than dosa that has traveled 30 minutes to reach you.
Absolutely.
So, so she's obviously going to make hot fulka or hot dosa, etc. So you're not going to be able to replace a mother who makes lovely steaming dosas.
Right.
So we said there's no point hammering that point.
Right.
Most mothers are super women, but they're not super women forever.
Right.
So why don't we try to basically say, look, you make the food you have to. But sometimes there'll be some random pester power that the kids are saying, I want this. And even if you're a superwoman, you can't make that food in 1 minute.
Right.
So why don't you enter with what we call the accompaniments, side dishes, sweets that can't be made overnight and so on and so forth. So the first round of advertisements actually had that insight, where mother is and father are at the table and their kids are eating, and they start clamoring for, the weather is nice and cool, can we have nice hot gajar ka halwa?
Bilkul.
I can't make gajar ka halwa overnight, I can make it for tomorrow, but aaj to nahi banega.
Bilkul.
So this smart mom is pressing a button and basically getting gajar ka halwa in 25 minutes. Now that is not her being a bad mom. She just can't make, nobody can make gajar ka halwa in 20 minutes. So that's an example. Or in one story we showed a mother basically making the son's favorite dish, but not the husband's favorite dish, and the husband sort of mock complaining that "Arey, ab to mera koi sunta nahi hai,
okay,
sirf isi ki sunte ho."
Sure.
So she secretly presses a button and gets his favorite dish in one shot.
Wonderful.
So now that's basically saying you can do your core, and you can also use Swiggy for sort of the auxiliary stuff.
Right.
And that inciting came about because she wouldn't tell us that I am being a bad mom and so on and so forth. So I think the entire process of really exploding any business is a what is called a by brain behavior.
Sure.
You need to have adequate amounts of data and adequate amounts of creativity to both learn as well as to bring it to life.
Absolutely.
So I think that, and everybody has it in them. So my message would be, you are more creative than you think you are, and you're more analytic than you think you are.
Absolutely.
So press on both.
Sure. And I was just recollecting, yesterday I was interviewing somebody, and the person was working in a company where they make these cameras in malls. And this person, who was not a technical person, was an admin person, was explaining to me how these cameras would count the number of people entering the mall, and they would give analytics to the mall management saying 6,000 males, 5,000 females, 3,000 kids entered the mall on the weekend. And she was in charge of invoicing the software and all of that. And then I asked her a question about, why do you think the mall needs this information? And she didn't know. So what you're trying to say is, while she knows the mechanics of what was happening, she was not thinking a little one step beyond and asking, why would we need this data? And what is this data translating into? What kind of decisions are being made? That's what you mean that, she could probably, if maybe it was not a part of her job, but as a curious person, she could at least understand what is the need of this data. That is what you're saying, that we can push our boundaries from an analytical side to a creative side and vice versa. And that's what makes things interesting.
In fact, one of the things which, if you say that I'm not just a data gatherer, but I'm somebody who's basically gathering data with a purpose for it to be useful. You have to first think, can it be useful to me? Can I think about how it will be useful to me?
True.
Every human has that ability.
True.
And so, for example, one of the things you would have noticed in most malls, assuming it's a mall where you have a fairly mixed bunch of males and females going, you would find that because of the nature of the beast, you have a longer queue and a harder problem for females vis-a-vis female toilets than for males.
Right.
You should always have more accessible and more toilets for females than for males.
Right.
So, but malls don't think of it that way. They think, equal is equal to making equal number of toilets. But of course, you're going to have a very different equation. So if she says, look, in this mall, you're getting 60% females and 40% males. And a lot of young kids. If you're a young kid and your mother is taking you, very, very young kid, like I'm talking infant and so on.
Sure.
You're going to be taken into the female toilet anyway.
Of course.
So everything else remaining constant.
Right.
Female toilets are going to have more pressure.
Sure.
Just make more female toilets. It's not that complicated. You're actually being fair by making unequal number of toilets.
Interesting. So since I have a background in user experience design, I can relate to how easy is it for me to think like this, but I guess it's not for everybody. That's interesting. So I have an interesting question about your photography and travel.
Right.
You not only have an interest in wildlife, as I said, you also have interest in culture, heritage, and all of that. I remember you were in the Mahakumbh recently, and you also came up with a body of work from there, which was collated as a nice blog. It was published, and I read through that, and I saw the experiences that you had. We actually meet a lot of wildlife enthusiasts. To be honest, I don't even think some of them are wildlife enthusiasts. They are tiger enthusiasts. So here's a cohort of people who are not interested in everything wildlife, not even everything mammals, not even everything. They want a tiger. And sometimes we also get people who are like, mujhe chota matka chahiye, mujhe ye chahiye. I have not seen this guy kind of a perspective. And there is somebody like you who is like on some holiday going to a Bandhavgarh and talking about the Bajrang. And on some day going to the Kumbh Mela and talking about the Kumbh. So what makes you interested in such diverse topics and not just be a tiger stripe collector? So
I think maybe the answer is, while I am sort of fortunate that I get a lot of likes on the pictures I post. I mean, all my Facebook posts are organic. I don't pay for it. I don't promote them. But I still think that in some senses, a bit like Dhoni, right? If I enjoy the process more than the outcome.
Okay.
So for me, the fact that, for example, I had gone to, I think it was where's the nature reserve in Karnataka where there's a lovely dam, like backwater.
Is it Harangi? Which part of Karnataka?
Towards Goa, but not all the way to Goa.
Okay.
It'll come back to me. But anyway, there's a nature reserve there, which is in a water. It's literally it's a water. Most of the safaris are water safaris.
Okay.
And I had seen pictures of your macaw.
Okay. The black background.
Black background. I was like, man, how? And you had described the process.
Sure.
And I was like, man, I'm not in front of a valley or something, but there's this jet black forest that is there, and I'm on a boat.
Oh, I see.
And the sun is rising from behind me.
Okay.
So I do think I'll be able to, if I'm smart, think about the sun rays falling onto this.
And you're talking about Bhadra.
That's
Bhadra.
right.
Okay.
Bhadra. Bhadra. That's right. So I said I should be able to get not as amazing a photo as yours, but something at least that satisfies me of the sun rays falling on a kingfisher.
Okay.
So that process, and when I'm in the boat, you're anyway just floating along. So first of all, they have a lot of kingfishers.
Right.
I saw 4 varieties of kingfishers, but this particular white-throated one was kept flying. And maybe I took 300, 400 shots. Finally, I got one where the forest is jet black because it hasn't gotten fully lit yet.
Right.
It's far behind.
Sure.
And the sun rays are falling on the bird and it's flitting through, and I got a lovely lit photograph of the bird.
Right.
Now, the process gave me more joy than the actual outcome.
Of course.
Because when I was actually reviewing the photographs, there were like 299 crappy photos.
Right.
And there was one which was reasonable, so I posted that, and of course it got a lot of likes.
Right.
So I think it's the same with work.
Right.
If you don't like what you do, you cannot do it for too long.
Right.
So you got to find something in what you do that you like, and then sort of life takes care of itself. So for me, I was like, man, there's the world's largest congregation of humans. It doesn't matter what numbers you believe. Is happening in a place up in North India.
Of course.
Where normally, and it's not like those people are going to stay in a town, which is next to it called Prayagraj.
Right.
But they're going to be in where the Ganga actually flows.
I see.
It's not on the banks of the river.
Okay.
The Kumbh Mela tents are on the river bed.
On the sandy areas.
Yeah, on the sandy areas, which is the riverbed. So literally in the monsoon, this will all be underwater.
Right.
So imagine in some senses, the world's fastest growing town and the slowest growing town are also in the same riverbed.
Of course.
12 kilometers up and down the Ganga Yamuna.
Right.
And it is like an incredible thing if you think about it.
Right.
And I was like, what kind of photography challenges would you have? I was thinking about it. I tried to read up about it. Got some very cool stuff online.
Right.
And I said, okay, now let me take very different gear. So of course, I never even dreamt of taking my 600 mm.
Sure.
I took pretty much very different gear.
Right.
And we had absolute fun for 2 days in doing stuff.
Right.
And it was very cold. It was 2 degrees Celsius and the water was cold.
Right.
But because you are saying, I don't care whether people are going to like my photographs or not, because you're going to have professionals posting stuff.
Right.
But if you're going to enjoy the 2 days journey, you're going to, that's it. So it's funny because actually when I posted it, it had, in some weird ways, it had more likes than some of my wildlife trips.
Oh, interesting.
And as a result of which, a couple of magazines reached out and said, would you convert this into a photo story and all of that?
Right.
Eventually I did it.
Wonderful.
And I don't think I'm good at this genre. I don't think I want to do it too often because there isn't a Kumbh every day.
Sure.
But it just worked.
It's a great break.
Of course, the principles I used of light and everything else that's taught. Again, back to the same first principles. The first principles of what's taught, for example, even in Toehold, on the art and science of photography is agnostic to wildlife.
Of course. Absolutely.
So if you apply that principle, and because anyway, you guys teach mostly in the classroom, the non-flash photography, except when you're teaching flash photography separately.
Right.
I was like, anyway, I'm not going to use a flash there. I'm going to just do whatever the eye sees. I'm going to do it.
Right.
It just worked. So I think you have to just really enjoy the process.
Sure.
And appreciation will come. I would say the following. Yes, it is a dopamine high when somebody likes your tiger photographs a lot.
Right.
But if your enjoyment is about other people liking you, which is quite normal and natural, then you are going to basically say, let me focus on Chota Matka and Kumbha and all of those people, or Tiger Tank Female or whoever, right? But if your enjoyment is going to be, I'm in the forest, this is such an incredible place.
Sure.
I'm going to see everything that Mother Nature throws at me.
Right.
If you force your guides to basically say, like, for example, this is what I told my guides this time. I was in a new forest. It's a slightly different landscape. Thankfully, very few lantanas in Bandhavgarh.
Of course.
Versus, let's say, in Kabini. I said, यहाँ पे जितने भी पेड़ है ना, हमको बहुत समय मिलेगा. आप पेड़ों के बारे में समझाइए मुझे.
Great.
और हर पेड़ का आप मुझे बताइए कि कैसे यहाँ के लोकल ट्राइबल वगैरह जो है, गांव के लोग हैं, उसको कैसे यूज करते हैं.
Let's start with the mahua.
Yes, of course he told me about the mahua, but he told me about the sal, he told me about Arjuna. Now in my current role as the CEO of Kerala Ayurveda, we learn a lot about plants.
Right.
There are so many plants. Like we buy, I think 1300 plants and their plant parts into our medicines. So I don't know all 1300, maybe today I know about 100, but and many of them are not even used in classical Ayurveda.
Sure.
So when I was told about how the tribals use Arjuna, the bark of the Arjuna tree for heart health.
Right.
I was like, and by the way, Arjuna is an Ayurvedic plant. It's used a lot in heart health medicines.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine him describing कि ये गांव वाले लोग इसका क्या करते हैं, इसको सुखाते हैं, ये करते हैं, वो करते हैं. You don't the pain of waiting for a tiger when there is no alarm calls and saying अरे फोन लगाओ, कहीं पे sighting हुआ है क्या, ऊपर zone में sighting हुआ है क्या, नीचे zone में sighting हुआ है. You're not doing that.
Right.
Because you have told him कि अगर कोई sighting होगा तो आप जुगाड़ लगा के रहिए कि फोन होगा.
बिल्कुल.
But in the meantime, what will I do? Let me be engaged.
Yeah.
There were actually times when he was midstream through a story and suddenly a phone call came saying, Bajrang has been sighted. And we said, chalo, nikalte hain. So he had to interrupt an interesting story to go to, the sighting of Bajrang.
Right.
And I do think that is why 5 days passes by in an incredible manner.
True.
And I'm also lucky that the group of people I grow with are also equally curious, interested in stuff.
Sure.
So it makes a huge difference.
Wonderful. And also Bandhavgarh is a place where, a lot of people don't know. Very close by, there are these communities like the Paride communities and all of that. And they have been representing that area for so many years.
Yes.
And I also have some friends who work with organizations where they help in uplifting these communities.
Yes.
And they struggle to convince the hardcore wildlife lover to also look at that aspect of, they're also a part of the ecosystem there.
Yeah.
So most people are very obsessed with tigers, which and of course I can understand why. But it will be so interesting if we open up. Forget the tigers. When I take people to Ranthambhore, I tell them, you have a free morning tomorrow. Your flight is in the evening.
Yeah.
Why don't you visit the fort?
Yeah.
It's an amazing fort with a lot of history, a lot of. Also, forget the history. You can just sit on the fort and look at Zone 3 and see the lakes, and sometimes you can enjoy the sunrise there. People say, no, I would rather go to Zone 10 and see if we can find tigers.
Yeah.
Somewhere I feel, as a company which takes people out to show them the world, we also can do a lot better in educating our customer base about what more than the tiger. It also, in yesterday itself, we were discussing in our senior team here about what a Toehold skipper is supposed to be equipped with.
Yeah.
Not just the art and science of photography, but also ecology, also the heritage if you're going to a Hampi or whatever.
Correct.
Because it's also important to know about the place in order to make better photos anyway.
Yeah.
So that is something that we as a company are taking it on us to.
I would say, obviously, I'm a fan of Toehold and talk about it a lot. I think that's something which we can learn from.
Sure.
So, for example, by the way, speaking of tribals, Kegudi
Soliga
has a lot of tribals and how they use it. So I remember when I was there, we spent a whole bunch of time even going to the villages to see how they are. If you look at it, the Kenyans who obviously had a Maasai experience, almost all the major mainstream tour companies will do a Maasai village as part of that. But I don't know if you've seen the way they pitch that to the visitors.
Oh, I see.
It's a fantastic way in which they pitch the visit to the Maasai village. And in terms of what you'll get, they will show the most amazing pictures of the Maasais.
Right.
And kind of inspire these people who've come in to take pictures of the lions to say, you can be this too. For example, if you see the Lonely Planet guide for Kenya, Kenya is so blessed.
Sure.
But the top of the Lonely Planet is not a lovely lion or a rhino, but a Maasai jumping up. They do that jump. And it's a lovely framing against the blue sky of his red and his black and all of that. That's on the front cover of the Lonely Planet.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
And so often these people will say, if we take you to the village, they'll do a little dance and you can get this shot. So if somebody is very focused on getting a shot and you can't change their mind in that sense, they actually inspire you to go there and not just learn the culture and buy artifacts and all of that, but also to get photographs that you can go back and boast about. And whatever tickles their fancy. So I think that is something which if Toehold could do, it would inspire some of these people to say, Arey, I can also get these sort of shots which are
it's an evolution. We also are doing what we knew and we are also learning and evolving, and this is definitely something we have noticed as an area for us to learn and improve, because we ourselves don't know as much of the ecology and biology and heritage and culture. Even though we may do a Hampi tour, we may not know the history of Vijayanagara Empire as much as it should be. So we need to push our photography knowledge towards the core of the subject. Could be archaeology, history and all of that when it comes to culture, heritage, tourism. Or could be ecology, biology and conservation and stuff like that when it comes to wildlife tourism. So we will definitely improve that aspect of us. So on that note, can I take a free advice? If I am actually taking a cohort of business leaders, let's say from Kerala Ayurveda or from Swiggy or from Accenture or wherever, what would a leadership team of that sort want from a heritage cultural rich place like, let's say, Hampi, or from a Kabini? What's your advice on what we should give them?
It's a little hard for me to just answer something that will work. But I think so let me put it this way. If you take, normally you would say salespeople are amazing talkers, right? Because if you have to listen to somebody's sales pitch and say, I want to buy, you better be a good communicator, talker. But I think the best salespeople are great listeners.
Absolutely.
Because they will spend a whole bunch of time listening and then they will craft their product. They will basically put together the what is called most salient aspects of their products and pitch it to you in the most amazing manner possible. And that's true if you're selling a house or versus if you're selling a car. And in your case, you're trying to sell a package.
Right.
So I think the quality of the questioning that is there, and I mean questioning in a very sort of non-interrogatory manner. Right? It's a dialogue-based question.
Understanding
what you're looking for, etc. would be quite useful.
Right.
It is entirely possible that somebody calls up and somebody tells you, नहीं, मुझे बस सिर्फ tiger देखना है. That's okay.
या फिर मुझे शाम को बस I just want to drink.
मुझे शाम को drink करना है, whatever. By the way, even for the Shamko, those who want to drink, I had people like me. We got authentic mahua for those people.
Okay.
And then we actually had the place I stayed in.
Did you speak like a Bandhavgarh guy? हम जानत है कि मोर बोलत है.
Exactly. But they made lovely mahua cocktail.
Okay.
Right? And so, whatever tickles their fancy. Right? And somebody was explaining how mahua is made and blah, blah, blah. Right? And why it lasts for a longer period of time than, say, toddy does.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So the point I'm making is, if you are interested in what interests the customer in a genuine manner,
right,
and say, okay, now let me see, because you have more things to show than I have time to see.
Right.
So if you understand me and pick pieces from your backpack to show me that are interesting to me,
right,
it's going to be a game changer.
Of course.
And I think you can do that, because the reality is, I don't think Toehold ever would have a large tour with a Mitsubishi Canter and 20 people in it.
Not at all.
You just don't do that.
Sure.
You're probably doing at max 1 jeep per skipper.
Sure.
Which means, depending on which forests you're in, you're either having 2 rows or 1 or 3 rows.
Yeah.
It's a manageable cohort.
Of course.
It's a manageable cohort to deliver whatever tickles their fancy.
Right.
But if your skippers basically say, "Is trip mein main 6 logon ko le ja raha hu," and these are the people, this is what they've told me they're looking for.
Right.
This is where I can do some homework and prepare for the trip.
Right.
And talk to them about it. Because if even if one of the 6 is interested in, let's say, which kingdom built the Bandhavgarh,
the
sort of fort and the temple, and what's the story of that, and when did it get into disuse and all of that kind of stuff. All you need to do is to basically tell that person, so this evening, after we come back, I'm going to basically tell you the story of this one. Or today when we go up to Tala Zone, because it's accessible from Tala Zone, I will show you the fort.
Right.
Wahan sham ko the sun will fall nicely on it. We can take some lovely pictures, etc. You're not going to have that person disinterested in it.
Of course.
Now, maybe 3 people in that group will be looking away and chatting, etc. But it would drive interest. So I think it's important that all the stuff that you amazingly teach, lighting, composition, camera settings, etc. You can almost keep that as what is called the cake. But think about this customization as the icing. And you can say, I'm going to give the same cake of wildlife photography, including tiger sightings, to everybody.
Right.
So that's the core.
Sure.
But I'm going to give a little bit of an icing on top to different people.
And customize it.
And customize it. So you can actually do what is called mass customization. It's not mass anyway, it's 6 people. And I think it'll make a tremendous difference to what people feel about the experience.
Wonderful.
If they feel the skipper has done homework about what is interesting to me, I think they will just respect the skipper a little more and listen to the skipper.
Absolutely.
Because people appreciate effort.
Absolutely.
Right?
Totally.
Just the same way as you would appreciate if I gave you a handwritten note for Diwali a lot more than if I sent you a
WhatsApp.
Happy Diwali WhatsApp. Forward as like, in theory, I have thought of you at Diwali.
Sure.
But why do you appreciate me sending you a handwritten note?
The
more?
effort. The effort.
It's the effort.
Absolutely. So here's my penultimate question to you. While I would love to know about your next interests in travel, where do you want to go, your bucket list. Let's talk about your gear. We haven't really touched on that. I know that you mentioned a 600 f4 Canon. What's the current gear with the mirrorless transition? Do you still use DSLRs? Have you moved on to mirrorless? What?
So I, in technology terms, I would not say I'm at the bleeding edge of buying the latest gear. I wouldn't be oblivious to it. I will try it out, test it out. I, by the way, had the fortune of doing a Canon sponsored sort of workshop where all the latest gear, R1 and R5 Mark II, everything was there with the corresponding RF lenses.
Right.
Loved it.
Right.
But at this point of time, glass is glass. I have an amazing glass. I'm used to 5 kilos of glass. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
So I'm still on let's call it the DSLR.
Okay.
I have a 1DX. But I have the latest 1DX or latest when
1DX
it was
Mark
launched,
III.
1DX Mark III. It's just fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous.
Of course.
I've got a whole bunch of L series lenses, which are also fabulous. I think for the next 10 years, they're not going to go, they're not going to give me bad photographs.
Right.
So I I'm aware of the latest and greatest in gear, but I haven't upgraded. I think because when I upgrade, I'll upgrade en masse.
Understood.
And I'll figure a way to, give
Sure.
this gear to somebody else because it'll still be workable gear.
Absolutely.
So I'm not your greatest person. I mean, I think the only thing for which I do buy the latest is mobile phones.
Okay.
Because that, I think the obsolescence is very high.
And also the use case is pretty frequent.
Yes. But on camera gear,
makes sense.
Sort of.
So what's coming up for Vivek Sunder in the next few months, if not years, with respect to travel? I know work-wise, I'm sure there'll be plenty.
So we just did Bandhavgarh. One of the things we do is in that last evening bonfire.
You decide the next trip.
We decide the next trip because that's when you strike when it's hot. Literally.
Yeah, Loha Garam hai.
Yeah, so Loha Garam hai, literally. And often when we have to inspire other team members who couldn't come for this one, if we say we have decided to go to this place and we have sent them photographs that is making them feel a bit,
sure,
I missed
FOMO,
etc. That's the time to do it.
Right.
So we've got two planned out.
Right.
One is the lovely Corbett with the mist in the winter. So February-ish. And then we've got the summer where we've said, okay, let's go and do one big hot, where it is crazy hot, but we are going to get fantastic sightings in front of the water bodies.
Sure.
And we'll either do Ranthambhore or some other place where the heat will bring the tigers out.
Yeah.
So that's been planned out.
Sure. I think I would recommend Panna in May.
Yeah.
Because one interesting thing about Panna in May is you can do a boat safari.
Yeah.
Either in the last few minutes
in
the Ken River.
Yeah.
And this year I was there in May and I saw a tigress with cubs on the edge of the water in the middle of the day. I was on a full day safari, so I had nobody else in the whole jungle.
Oh, fabulous.
And even if you're not on a full day, safari ends at 11 or 11:30 in the morning. So 10 o'clock onwards, it's pretty hot anyway.
Correct.
So that's a great place to consider.
Yeah, we did Panna in last year in the summer.
Okay.
In the same period.
Sure.
Absolutely loved it. We were in a Cane River lodge, literally.
Oh, likewise.
And totally loved it. Again, this is one of those cool things. How cool is that airport? You land.
Yeah.
And you
half
are
an hour.
Half an hour away from the forest.
Right.
But you're also half an hour away from Khajuraho monuments.
True.
So on the last day before we flew out, we went to the Khajuraho monuments. Completely different gear.
Absolutely.
But we took the most amazing pictures of those monuments.
Right.
And we went with a good guide, so he explained everything to us.
Super.
Etc. So I think the Khajuraho plus Panna is just an amazing combination.
Absolutely. So Vivek, I think it's been a pleasure talking to you. I have a list of questions, but I think I don't have a problem talking to you for hours, but I think we'll keep it for another day. I still haven't even touched half of what I listed on. We have so much to talk about anyway. Thank you so much for making time. I'm sure it will inspire a lot of people who are in different walks of life, in different professions, to look at some hobby. It need not be photography. It could be bird watching. It could be, writing. It could be whatever else. Something creative, something apart from the profession to inspire them to go back on a Monday morning with a fresh, head on their shoulders, and also to learn from their hobbies and different things that they do to bring back some positives to their profession. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to joining you on some trip someday in the near future.
Yeah, the pleasure would be mine to join you. Every time I go with you, there is something to learn from. I think you stay in touch with the latest and greatest in technology, even if you're not using it yourself.
Sure.
Which is very cool. So thank you for the time. I've totally enjoyed it. I know you have more questions. I had more to share. But on hobbies, I'll tell you one thing, because you talked about hobbies.
Sure.
I actually talked about hobbies in a business school recently. And so they asked me to describe my hobbies, and obviously photography is one of them, but learning languages is another one.
Oh, I see.
And so and I know you're very good at a whole bunch of languages. You sing very well in Kannada and Hindi.
Right. With my accent problems with Hindi.
Nobody notices that when you're singing well.
Right.
And so languages helped me a lot. So for example, when I was in Central India,
sure.
I didn't know that the Central Indian language of the tribals is connected more to Telugu than to the Northern India.
Oh, this is information
right?
to me.
And obviously, I know at least two Southern Indian languages. So I noticed and I said, okay, that's more like what they're speaking is more like Telugu.
I see.
So I asked the tribal that, and obviously he saw that I was interested in him, and he was a tribal guide. And I can assure you, he put in a little more effort in explaining things to me even outside of the language, just
Right.
because I noticed that when he was speaking to somebody, it was in a language that I took interest in. So I think, yes, of course, as a marketer, it helps to know multiple languages and
Sure.
so on and so forth. But I think as a hobby, it just helps you connect better, even in these short trips,
Right.
etc.
Sure.
So, for example, I remember telling the guides, I said, आप ये अंग्रेजी में मत बताइए मेरे को, आज जितने भी आज पक्षी दिखेंगे, सबका आप लोकल हिंदी में, ये मेरे को सिर्फ बाज मत बोलना, अगर बाज है तो कौन सा बाज है बताना, right? And so that's what we did. In one of the tours, I said, आप जो भी आपको स्पीशीज दिखेगी, आप उसका मुझे हिंदी में या लोकल भाषा में जो भी है, वो बताएंगे. And you know what is amazing is that we think that the names of the birds or animals or whatever is quite evocative in English, right? Clearly, white-breasted or white-throated kingfisher is quite evocative. It's a kingfisher, it's got a white breast, etc. But the Indian languages, especially Sanskrit, has the most amazing description of birds and animals you can ever think of. There are over 100 names for our national bird in Sanskrit.
Oh, wow. Is it?
Over 100. Over 100 for elephant.
Oh, really?
Over 100.
Wow.
And if you just look at each of the names, you do not, just by speaking the names or knowing the names, you don't have to remember it, but if you just look at the names, you will know about the bird or the animal and its looks, its diet, its habitat, its behavior.
I see.
Its relationship with the environment, its relationship with its prey or its predator.
I see.
Every one of those things is described in one of the names.
I see.
In fact, in some weird ways, if you think about it, you have the Vishnu Sahasranama, right?
Right.
1,000 names. If I told you the Gaja Shatanama, it can describe the behavior of the elephant,
right,
in a way that most people who know elephants would not know. This is the behavior of the elephant. I didn't know that.
I see.
Or this is the behavior of the moor, peacock. I didn't know that.
Right.
And so I actually think that the interest in languages forced me to learn this.
Wonderful.
And I actually know bird behavior or animal behavior a lot better just by learning the local names of the birds. In some cases, the tribal name. In many cases, even the Sanskrit name.
Sure. Wonderful. That's an amazing insight. I would love to do a little bit of research apart from knowing the visual things about a bird, like for example, a Neelakant, is something which we associate with an Indian roller, for example. There could be names you're saying which are behavioral in nature.
Oh, I can tell you. There's a bird. Here's a quiz question for you. I mean, you will know the answer, but I'll still say it. There's a bird which is locally called Kotwal.
Kotwal. Okay.
So maybe in this video you can write the Kotwal's logic in the sort of comments in this video.
Sure.
But what is a Kotwal? It's a policeman or a guard. And this bird essentially acts as a Kotwal to the other birds.
I see. To
prevent birds of prey when it's approaching. It creates what is called a noise, and it basically protects this.
Sounds like a lapwing to me.
Your lapwing is on the more aquatic side.
Okay.
But this is a terrestrial bird.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
So obviously it's got a more prosaic, boring name.
I see.
I can surely tell you.
Okay.
But when the guys were talking and they were saying Kotwal, I was like, "Aapne police ka kyun naam liya?" And then the guy told me, and then in the evening I went and Googled it up and found out, and I was like, "Wow, what a cool name!" It's clearly linked to the behavior.
Oh, interesting. It creates a ruckus. Interesting. Wonderful. I would love to go back to the jungle with you. Hopefully, something very interesting, which I have not done, where I'm not in a show-off mode, but I'm in an absorbing mode, so that I'll be happy to learn from various experiences. Awesome. Wonderful. Awesome. Any closing thoughts, Vivek? Would you like to?
I would say your company is inspiring in what it does.
Right.
And I think there are a few. I know there are a few others who are trying to do the same thing. I've loved what you started. You left your other job for this passion.
Right.
And this is, I guess, now work, passion, vocation, everything is merged in one.
True.
I think Toehold has got some really good things going for itself.
Thank you.
In the fact that I can basically reach out both for technical knowledge as well as for let's call it experiential knowledge.
Sure.
And I think the fact that you're also broad church, you don't just, you may be an ambassador of brand X versus brand Y at different stages of your career.
Right.
But I don't ever feel, Jayanth is using Sony.
Canon ke bare mein baat nahi
karega.
Sure.
It's nicely mixed. If I have a Canon, you'll still teach me.
Absolutely.
I love that. I also
not just teach you, I'll learn it myself also.
Exactly. So I love that.
Sure.
I think you're also in what I call the sweet spot of scale, although I would obviously, as a well-wisher, wish for Toehold to grow.
Sure.
But I think you're in a sweet spot where people still get an authentic, great experience. And even whether I go with you or I go with Trikansh, who's the other skipper I've gone with, I just felt that both of you have the same principle.
And the surname.
Yeah, of course. Of course. But both of you are interested in this topic.
Sure.
And you're not just interested in tiger.
Bilkul.
So I think that's very good.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would look forward to seeing you sometime. And as usual, I'll call you soon for some advice on business, direction, marketing, and whatever else. Thank you so much, Vivek. It's been a pleasure having you. And I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. See you in the forest.
Thank you. Well, that was such a refreshing conversation with Vivek Sunder, a man who's led teams, shaped brands, and still finds wonder in waiting for a tiger to emerge from the Kabini woods. It's inspiring to see how leadership doesn't always mean speed or control. Sometimes, like in the wild, it's about patience, observation, and respect for the process. If you enjoyed this chat, do share it on LinkedIn or tag someone who blends business thinking with creative curiosity. And if you're someone who wants to explore photography, travel, and learning through experiences like Vivek did, you'll find us at Toehold. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.